2024 Mercedes-Benz GLS 63 AMG. This is our third GLS video. However, this GLS 63 is the top performance trim in the GLS model lineup. The most expensive vehicle, however, is the GLS 600 Maybach. This 63 variant starts at $145,000. As tested, it's about $156,000, and it is not fully loaded. If you want to fully max one of these things out, you can go well past $160,000. So what do you get for your lots of money? Well, this has the bi-turbo 4-liter V8. It makes about 603 horsepower and 627 foot-pounds of torque, and it's good for 0 to 60 in the low 4s. This being our third GLS video, this is going to be a quick video. We'll be focusing entirely on what the AMG package or trim level adds to this vehicle. Now let's start with the exterior and interior very briefly. From an exterior perspective, this has the optional 23-inch wheels, and I will say the wheels appeal to a shameful part of me. I do really appreciate how this makes this go to the full big pimpin' spec. If you want to look ostentatious, and the fact that you spent $145,000 is important to you, this is the way to do it. From an interior perspective, while AMG is not a value brand by any means, they've had to make sure that most of the lower trim GLS options are here as standard, so you get heated and cooled and massaging front seats. You have full leather everywhere. The more expensive leather, you can either get captain's chairs in the back, or you can go to a massaging bench function. You have the lower trimmed Burmester audio system as standard. I do highly recommend going to the 3D EQ Burmester audio system, which is an additional $4,500, but if you're already spending $144,000 or $145,000, who cares? You have all the AMG interior electronics, steering wheel, the specifically AMG bolstered seats, and of course, all of the interior drive mode electronics. With that though, I think it's time for us to head in the shop and put this thing up on the lift. In the shop with the Mercedes-Benz GLS 63 AMG. So what do you need to know? Well, this, much like all of its other GLS siblings, is built in Alabama. However, its bi-turbo 4-liter V8 is shipped all the way from Germany, where it is hand-built. Let's talk about that, because that's why you're buying the AMG 63 variant. It is a bi-turbo setup. It's a hot V. The V8 itself makes in the high 500 horsepower range. The EQ boost or integrated starter generator motor is there. It's a 48-volt electric motor that sits between the V8 and the gearbox. It augments a little bit of horsepower, 21 horsepower, but it does augment a ton of torque, 184 foot-pounds of torque, and it runs all the accessory belts, the starter motor, and it does torque fill at low RPM. So when you're getting off the line, the electric motor kicks in. Obviously, it starts up the engine itself and helps propel this off the line until the V8 takes over and spools up to 1 billion PSI. It is largely seamless to the driver, and this engine or drivetrain combination can propel this thing to 0 to 60 in 4.1 seconds, and for its vast size is very impressive. It does feel, particularly when it's on boil, much more powerful than the S68 in the X7 or N63, depending on which variant you get. The gearbox tuning is not quite as good though, if I'm going to be honest. This is the F8 speed. This is Mercedes 9-speed automatic. It's not a dual clutch, though it is fairly smooth. The all-wheel drive setup is rear bias. It can send up to 100% of the power to the rear, and it can send up to 50% of the torque to the front. It does feel rear drive biased, and you combine the active suspension or air ride with the 48-volt sway bars. It has remarkably good body control. The one thing I will say is this architecture feels a little bit more rigid than the BMW X7, particularly if you're sitting in the second or third row. It doesn't feel like there's much chassis like flex and twist, and the front and the rear of this car do feel a little bit better tied together. However, you are paying for it. This is far, far more money than the BMW X7, and you can argue if you necessarily feel it when you're just putting this thing around. Ride quality, though, even with these 23-inch wheels, is quite good. Behind these 23s, of course, you get giant brakes in the front, and you know, if you are driving this on the Autobahn and getting close to that 170-mile top speed, I'm sure they are a welcome addition. Last thing I'm going to quickly talk about is the rear differential. It does have a mechanical E differential in the back, and it does do a good job putting down its power. So let's go take this for a quick drive.
Jack, I just sold a whole bunch of railroad bonds in Russia. So I got myself an AMG GLS.
Oh, Mark, to celebrate, I'm going to put put this in the launch control. Oh, here, let me.
Oh, perfect. Just what I want. Yep.
Oh, man.
You know, now I don't have to hang my AK-47 out the window to shoot it off because my exhaust sounds like it's doing it for me.
See, my exhaust celebrates me.
Yeah.
Well, I bought my GLS 63. All right, you own an X7. The X7 that you own is
Sitting in the garage
Yes.
because I want to sell it.
all right, but you own one.
Yeah.
And we've driven the new one with the S68. That thing was like $130,000. This, and that's fully loaded. This starts at 145, and by the time you're done, it's like 160. Is this worth the delta over the X7?
We're talking about the AMG here.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So
Big boy to big boy.
No. All right. There's a few reasons. Let's start with the pros. Engine is incredible in here.
Yes.
Like, people bemoan the fact, oh, why don't we have AMG V8s? This, obviously this isn't a 3-row, so it's totally like, it's so big and heavy that you don't really get the full experience, but it is an amazing engine until you actually have to fix it. So if you're looking at it, you want the V8, you want this beast in a 3-row. It is very, very, very fast.
The 80 to like 150 in this thing is unbelievable for a 3-row.
And you get on the highway, and the natural habitat of this car is like 140 miles an hour. Like, you could go 140, 150, and it's like nothing.
Yeah.
So if that's what you want, and you have 2 kids in the back that you want to put in peril, driving.
You have children, but you don't like them.
Yeah,
so you need to be driving 150 miles an hour.
You're going to do a pipeline inspection, and you want to make sure that your money is safe and take
the local population is causing problems.
Right, yeah. So I get it from that perspective because there's not a lot like this.
It appeals to the part of me that's a huge asshole.
Yes. Yeah, 100%.
Particularly these 23s, I'm like, yeah, big pimping at all times.
Yeah, you're not buying this because you're like, I'm kind of practical, but I'd like a little bit of zest in my life. No, you're buying this because you want to put a picture of yourself on the side of the car holding a wad of money with gold chains on.
All right, we talked about the buyer of this car, Mark. Let's talk about the car itself. What does it do better than the X7? It makes more power.
Yeah, it does.
I will say the front and the rear of this car are potentially better tied together. Like, for how big it is, in some ways it hustles better. And I think the body maybe flexes a little less in the back.
I think the back rides a little bit better in terms of just chassis refinement, but overall, to be honest, they're very close. You can tell they benchmarked each other for this because everything is like so similar. But when you talked about price, getting the V8 BMW, even though it doesn't,
It's not an M7.
Yeah, it's not an M, but it's so close. It's almost as quick in normal driving. It's smoother.
At least in America, you aren't going 150 miles an hour.
Right. So you're living under 100 miles an hour most of the time, and the X7 is, I think it has better transmission logic.
Way better.
Smoothness overall, the way that the different drive modes, you go from comfort to Sport Plus in that car, it's really snappy without being jerky. This car seems to gear hunt a lot more. I feel like steering is better in the X7, although it's got the BMW syntheticness where it's like artificially quick. Yeah, everything feels really well calibrated there. Even rear wheel steering doesn't. It just feels very nimble. This does not feel that way to me.
And the interior technology is leagues better.
Yeah, the interior is way better in the X7. Although the massaging function is better in the Mercedes.
This thing hauls ass.
Yeah. The engine's the star of the show here. Literally, if that's all you care about, you want a loud engine, like a great engine, great exhaust in a 3-row.
You don't want an Escalade V.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Because that's on another level of obnoxious. This does a great job with that. Other than that, it feels very, very dated.
Yes.
And I would take an X7 over this than the updated one.
I know we haven't driven one because JLR doesn't really give us anything interesting, but I would love to see what the new Range Rover is like, because you get the crazy, like, look at me, I'm a rich person luxury on the inside. I like the exterior styling, and you get the BMW drivetrain.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So with that, Mark, let's head into the final thoughts, sir.
Sounds good. Now, doing videos like this, you start to realize that some of these products are designed for less than 1% of the population. And the GLS with the AMG package in this V8 is one of those. It's reserved for somebody that has $150,000 plus of disposable income for a 3-row SUV, or more than likely is going to lease this. Or if you're looking for it after it's been depreciated out on a buy here, pay here lot, the thing that commands your attention is you realize how special the AMG V8 is. And when you talk about that V8 experience going away, it makes you sad, because even in a monstrosity like the GLS, it has so much character that basically nothing else on the planet has besides engines like this. So you don't want it to go away. And if you're somebody that values that, you're going to buy this and enjoy it. Despite the deficiencies and some of the technology has been dated in a lot of the interior, and the vehicle feels behind its competition in many ways, but the drivetrain keeps it fresh. If you're somebody that wants to lease it, you're going to appreciate that, and you're going to make so many excuses for why you own it. But really, at this price point, you know, let's be real. There's so many other products now that have caught up with it. The X7 you can get for far less money, almost $50,000 less, and it's still got a great V8 that is right on the heels of the AMG version of the GLS. You know, you have upcoming EVs, so there's a lot of things out there that might tickle your fancy more than this Mercedes product. But I'm going to leave it at that. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next video.